last time I've been speaking about devotion to openness, and thinking about power as process, a power with life rather than a power over life. And, we human beings, like all other animals, we are open systems ourselves, and therefore we need to really stay open to the ever-changing, wider flows of the ecologies around us, the ecologies in which we are embedded, and participate, through, for example, eating, drinking, breathing, living in social systems. There's so much exchange, and we never ever are separate from those processes. And even sometimes, certain elements of those processes are experienced, from our viewpoint as unacceptable or challenging. And that's, totally understandable, but we still need to stay open, need to stay in communication. And here, with those Wednesday meetings, what I like to try to support is, building up a group, building up a system of support for each other. So we have the courage to familiarize ourselves with this opening to these wider flows. And, really understanding that our bodies, understanding, which means, really stand under it, really go close to it, that these bodies are our connection to life. And through that, the connection to the planet, which is, keeping us alive and has given birth to this planet through our mothers. And when the time comes, bodies go back. So part of the healing process is to stay grounded in that recognition. And in that way, become an ally to life through consciously opening and receiving what is transmitted, from the bigger system we are embedded in, from the planet, really. So, learning to distinguish what we sense and feel from our imagination, from what we are thinking. Learning to distinguish sensing and feeling from thinking. And the bodies, our bodies are the connection unit to the planet. They're like an amazing biocomputer, we could say. Keeps us connected to this larger living ecology, this living, intelligent, self-organized being we call planet Earth, which has emerged out of the bigger universe. So we are basically training ourselves together to be more and more attuned, more and more precisely attuned to these larger ecologies and what they have to transmit to us, through the very fact that we have these connection units, these bodies, which we are in, for this lifetime. So starting to explore this information which is transmitted by the different parts of our bodies, these amazing biocomputers. Because every part of our bodies receives and transmits information all the time. By the simple fact, that our bodies are open systems which constantly are in exchange through, as I said, eating, drinking, and breathing. All things, we have been taking for so, quote unquote, normal and granted. We never really were able, to see this bigger context, see that eating, drinking, breathing as a way of receiving information. I think that's a new way of looking, which starts to emerge into our Homo sapiens species right now because of the pressure of the climate crisis. So, that we have these receptors in our bodies, but we have kind of not paid attention to them for a long time. They have been kind of turned off, shut down, we can say. And now, because of the pressure of the situation, we are waking up to the fact, hey, we can just like start to open up this relationship again. Remembering, our very archaic capacities for living in communication with the biosphere. These capacities are simply buried, underneath modern intellectual education, but they haven't gone anywhere. But because they are shut off, it produces stress, because somehow on an unconscious level, we are starting to realize that there's something out of tune. And I think we call that probably, climate grief and stress and all of those things. But if we consciously turn towards these capacities to remember and reawaken them, we can slowly but surely co-regulate again, with the planet. And, and through this co-regulation, we learn to communicate again with other life forms. And that is fundamental, to the survival of our species now. That we develop the respect and the capacity to communicate with other life forms and learn from them, because we are the youngest species here. We are the most immature. We really would do well, to open ourselves to other species who are around so much longer than us. 250 million years, certain species like turtles or certain plants and so on. It's amazing. And we are just here, like not even a million year, our species, 200,000 years. And there have been hominid species, before us, maybe maximally 2 million years. So there is a lot, we can learn if we are willing, if we are humble enough, and if we are working on reawakening these receptors, which are part of our inheritance. Because, all of us, we have indigenous forebears in our lineages, of course, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So to kind of remember that by training it, by recalling it and waking it up again. So basically to reanimate this relational thinking beyond our own species, to see each other as all, co-workers, we are all employed by the planet. And there's not just like one group of species employed, we are all together in this. And that's a new way of thinking which is emerging. And because it is emerging, we can invite it, and we can use practices to strengthen and amplify what is being said, quote unquote, in a wordless way. And these meditations are ways of listening into what is being transmitted by, having this intention to be an antenna for this next wave of evolutionary growth to land in us, to volunteering for that, rather than trying to get away from it. We just say, okay, please, we want to know. because the earth is not against us. She just wants to correct us. She just wants to show us the way. So we need to learn to listen and to become more intimate with what is being said. And, to wean ourselves off from this anthropocentric viewpoint that it's all about us. This is so immature, like a little toddler who thinks it's all about him or her. It's kind of sweet, when he's only 1.5 years old. But if we are like in our 60s and we still believe that, it gets a bit pathetic, to say the least, and dangerous actually for our own survival, because it's just not working. And I think I've mentioned that, in earlier meetings, that the word Homo sapiens, the title we have given ourselves, the word sapiens comes from the Latin word sapere, which means to taste. And that speaks of a very intimate kind of knowing, because little kids, little babies, when they want to know something really well, they take it in their mouth, because that's the most intimate way of connecting. And I think, for us Homo sapiens, it speaks of an intimacy with experience, which is something which is still a working theme for us, and now it's really coming out very big. Because we need it now, we really need it. And it's all available. Just need to turn towards it and be bothered enough, to put in the footwork it takes to reawaken it, to remember it in the true sense of the word. So, we even have it in the language, but to use language more consciously, to remember, to put it together again, the connection. Or the information, to really take it into our form, let it sink in. All of these good words, to really use language more consciously. I think that will also really help us with making that shift, to use language more consciously as an art form, as an art form of amplifying the power of communication. Because it's not, if we look at how communication is used in the media, it just makes us really dull. And then if we stop and really look into those words, where does it come from? It's like, wow, it's amazing. And it said that language originally has emerged out of the land, through very early forms of communication were probably just, for example, there would be a lightning strike and then there would be, oh! So this was the beginning of language, or maybe, early humans trying to copy the sound which is made, for example, by water or by the wind. And then later on, slowly but surely language unfolded from that. And then writing came about. And first it was more pictorial writing, which had still some of the original inspiration of the words in them. But as we became more and more abstract, and we have created a phonetic writing, we have lost the connection, and it has become more and more abstract, and the words no longer relate at all, to what they are describing. And our thinking process, our process of how we relate with each other and to the wider ecologies, has become more and more distant. And here we are now, with the mess, which is the result of it. And we won't go back, to being Homo erectus or anything like that. But we can come full circle and bring together, this height of intellect and technologies, bring it back and marry it with the capacity to sense and feel and to have an intuitive relationship with the wider ecologies. And in this way, both streams will support each other. The sensing and feeling is leading, and the intellect and the thinking is supporting. And there is, a saying that the time will come when the iron eagle or the eagle and the condor, will fly together. The condor is the more intuitive way of knowing, the more indigenous way of knowing, and the eagle is the more intellectual way of knowing. And when they work together, this is the next step for our species to be able to stay in the flow of what is needed and to keep relevant, to be able to stay here and protect the earth from our own technologies and make sure that there is a space for future generations to land into. So please, let us now again go into a meditation. Just leaning back, dropping in, sensing the weight of the body on the cushion on the chair. Deep breath. And just checking in with yourself, how you are right now. What are you bringing to this meeting? Dropping down from the head into the heart. The emotions. And then from the heart into the body. And from the body, sensing the ground underneath where we are sitting. And on this nervous system is capable to connect. It's just a matter of attunement. A matter of matching. The tune of our mind, of our capacity for awareness with the tune of the nervous system. Bringing that together. Filling the whole body with awareness, mindfulness. That aliveness, vibrancy, and allowing that intimacy to unfold as we drop deeper and feeling the whole body, and maybe even the ground, the soil underneath where we are sitting. No pressure, just allowing it to dawn on us. As our awareness, our capacity to connect becomes more refined through training it. and our internal awareness is growing. The awareness that this body is actually an amazing biocomputer, unmatched, by any technology we could ever build ourselves. How it is embedded in the larger biosphere, how it stays alive. It is mind-blowing. And that's what we want. We want to blow open the mind, to let go of these old patterns of thinking, because they are not really up to the job, really. Let them all blow open. In this attempt to get back into the community with the more than human world. Because that's what we need to do, and that's the healing. Not by protecting ourselves and controlling everything, just the opposite. And also, remembering what we can't sense and feel, we need to overthink. Then we get into the mess, of interpreting everything from our own viewpoint, because what else can we do? And then we end up with a anthropocentric worldview, which is unsustainable, because it isn't all about us. Of course not. Why should it be? Makes no sense. And it's difficult for the thinking mind to get to that. But sensing and feeling, intuition can do this in a split second. As we sense this openness of those bodies. The direct sensing and feeling is much more powerful a medicine than any other way. The aliveness, the vibrancy. And I really love that saying, the ringing of the ornaments of the mother, as she always finds a way. And we need to learn to trust her. And we need to do this together. Because solutions from a disconnected place do not gain traction. In this way, we are just responding to the crisis in the same way as the crisis has been created. We need to remember, reroute in the web of life consciously, and let solutions emerge from there. And, it's not about working hard and trying to push through something, but it's much more about adding, adding mindfulness, adding awareness, adding precision as an expression of love and devotion to the process. Expanding perception, and in that way expanding our way to see solutions, emerging from that expanded field of living. And it's more like, micro adjustments, internal micro adjustments, which become more accessible through the training. So we, quicker to remember when we get triggered, when we get thrown off, quicker to get back to the expanded state from the contracted aversion defense into the expanded, connected, open perception. And then allowing responses to emerge from there. Because we can see more clearly. And the word, Aloka means clarity, actually. That was the name of the first nuns' cottage in England where I trained many years ago in the early 90s. The Aloka cottage in Chithurst, West Sussex. It was on the edge of a forest and a lake. Very beautiful place to get started. In the forest tradition, which is also very open to the teachings of nature, but at that time it was much more a patriarchal way of looking, which was observing from outside of the web of life. Very anthropocentric, because it was not yet the time. But now things are opening up because it's happening. And the whole teaching moves along. So sensing into this aliveness and noticing, you have arms and legs, the kind of a shapes, we all have, very practical, for moving around and getting things done, getting food, finding a mate, finding shelter. And all the different systems in the body working for us. Digestive system takes in a lot of information through food and drink, and then distills what is being taken in and then sends it out throughout the whole body. Some of it goes into the toilet. Then the respiratory system, the breathing, taking in the oxygen produced by plant life and plankton. Amazing situation if we think about it a little or allow it to sink in. It's a side product of photosynthesis, where plants literally out of thin air, out of the photons of the sun, producing sugars, build their bodies, and then we eat those plants and build our own bodies. So it really is extracted out of thin air in a way. It's really more than amazing and mysterious how this is all taking place. So those photons, raining upon us from the sun in the daytime. We can't really relate to that by thinking, but we can sense into it, and there's a sense of, wow, sense of awe, which is an appropriate response. And awe is always an opening, making more space. A beautiful piece of art can open us up in this way, or music, or nature, sunset, beautiful animal, or so many ways how that can happen. And trusting that this is not a coincidence. It makes a lot of sense. And then the circulatory system, the bloodstream being pumped around by the heart, liquid, water. 75% of the human body is water element. And then the nervous system, which allows us to sense, the more intuitive way of knowing. So when you can sense your whole body as you're sitting here, just at once the whole body gives a lot of information. How are you? Are you feeling safe or feeling scared? Are you hungry or not? Gives so much information in one moment. The fluid system keeps the body moist in your mouth, in your eyes, for example. And then the skeletal system, which holds us up. We'd be able to sit here if we wouldn't have those bones. It's just like a heap of flesh. And then the endocrine system, the hormonal system. Also very, very complex and intricate balance, which is taken care of by those hormones. They're changing, as we are aging and different phases of our life, different hormones telling us what to do. So, honoring the intelligence of all of those systems, working together like an orchestra. And just see what are you noticing without pushing yourself, just becoming more precise by adding awareness, adding presence, mindfulness to what is already happening. And in starting maybe to understand that if we are, you know, putting concrete over vast areas of the planet and burning down vast areas of or cutting down vast areas of forest and basically impoverishing the capacity for communication, that this is not working. And we know, for example, that here in the Americas, particularly in North America, but I think also in South America, indigenous people, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, they have been conscious gardeners of the landscape. They have created, whole huge swaths of land with nut trees, for example, on the East Coast, from Vermont down to, I think, Louisiana and Georgia. It's vast stretches of land. But they've consciously, been supporting nature to flourish. Or then there's also clam gardens. There's certain kinds of mussels, in the sea, which were also consciously created to produce more food, for the people, but in a way which was working in unison with nature, by supporting nature to be bountiful. And that's also said about the Bay Area where I live, around San Francisco, that was an extremely bountiful park landscape, which was taken care of by the people, but not exploited, but it was supported to be bountiful and beautiful. The archaeology can show us, in different layers of sediment, how that was taken care of. Also through controlled burning of the forests. It was a way of working with nature rather than trying to dominate her. And this is why we have here on the West Coast such issues with wildfires now, because this controlled burning, hasn't been allowed for over 100 years. So it's like explosive material, the forests here. They are so dense with overgrowth and too many trees, too dense together, everything that doesn't really work well. So waking up to seeing everything from our anthropocentric world, we're waking up from that and seeing, having an expanded perception, seeing things in context. And then from that seeing, new solutions can emerge, which are much more practical and sustainable. Maybe, we can, connect to a place we love, a place, which means a lot to you, maybe the place where you were born or any other place, just trying to bring that into awareness. See what emerges if you allow that, if you recall that. Feeling that there's the love, your love for that place, which has called that place into awareness right now. And maybe also sensing the love the place has for you. Maybe you've been there as a child or later in your life. And getting that kind of sense that this place can communicate with us. Learning a different language, a wordless language. An intuitive way of communicating. It's the language of the heart. Which works very different than the language of the intellect. And the two, they can work together. They need to work together. and allowing that recognition that there are different languages, allowing that to be sensed and felt. So become more confident and open to that way of connecting with life. Just simply because it's happening. So breathing up the stability and the vastness of the earth. And see if you can feel that huge network you are embedded in, you are belonging to, in which we can consciously remember that connection and serve that emergence. Bringing together the ancient, archaic capacity to live with the earth and using all of our intellectual and technological accomplishments to serve that, to bring together these two ways of knowing and being before it is too late for us as Homo sapiens. And just trying to do our part for the benefit of future generations in particular, and also for our own benefit, when we are lying on our deathbed, knowing that we did what we could to support this emergence. Be an antenna for that knowing. And see what happens. What will the response be? We don't know, but we are doing it. What else is there to do? It's like opening the door and noticing, that if we are practicing like that, what's changing in our lives, in our self-understanding, and enjoying that possibility, which was right under our noses, since we are born, but we just didn't really know about it. And now it's happening. Now it's pushing into consciousness. And we just open the door and say, okay, come in. So this urge to evolve, which probably all, for some reason brought you here into this earthworm group, which is one pocket of sanity, which are springing up all around the planet. And connecting again with the breath, with the weight of the body on the chair, on the cushion, as we are slowly coming to the end of the meditation. I didn't ring a bell today, so you can slowly come back into the